And I'm Jana.
And we are intergalactic travel agents with the Intergalactic Travel Bureau. Now, you may be wondering what exactly qualifies us to be intergalactic travel agents. Well, we've planned thousands of space vacations as a public service for the past 5 or 6 years. But the most important qualification for being an intergalactic travel agent, and you might be interested because we're always recruiting, is a pink hat.
And we've actually recruited a lot of travel agents, including one you might recognize last year, so we have some incriminating evidence. And so we believe that space vacations should be for everybody, not just the fabulously wealthy or elite military pilots. We believe they're for your Aunt Sally and her dog. And so if you're feeling like you need to get away from the Earth, like many of us do now, we're offering some options in the inner and outer solar system and even nearby.
Space is not that far away. It's anywhere from 50 to 100 miles up, depending on who you ask. The boundaries, a little bit blurry, but for the very reasonable price of $200,000, you can visit what some call the edge of space, which is not, orbiting the Earth, but just going high enough where you can see the curvature of the Earth. The views are magnificent. You can experience weightlessness for a few minutes. It's truly a magical experience. Hundreds of people have paid, $100,000 to $200,000 to take one of these trips. But we caution you very strongly that no one has actually been on a trip. So there are 2 or 3 companies that have sold tickets. Many, wealthy people, celebrities have bought those tickets. We're all eagerly awaiting the first suborbital space flight.
But there are space tourists. There are private citizens that have paid $20 to $50 million to take a trip to the International Space Station. So 8 people have done that. And this is a true trip to space because you're going to be orbiting around the Earth. You're going to be in what's called low Earth orbit. So if you're going fast enough and you're 250 miles in that direction, so that's about the distance from New York to DC, so not very far, you are really in space. You can orbit in the International Space Station.
If you have a little bit more money, if you have about 10 times that, for the very nice price of $200 million, which we have on good authority is what a famous director may have paid to SpaceX to take a trip around the moon, and he has yet to go on it, but Elon Musk of SpaceX has sold a ticket to the moon. It's a very nice little trip, jaunt to the moon. If you want to land on the moon, that's going to be closer to $1 billion. But, if you can afford that, just make sure that you order, you reserve a hotel room with a view of the Earth, because you'd be disappointed if that's something you wanted to see. It's a beautiful view of the Earth. You can see everyone you've ever known. You can see every place you've ever visited in this one view. It's truly, truly beautiful.
And if you get an Earth view room in the hotel, the Earth will stay in the same spot in your window because the same side of the moon is always facing the Earth, and so it's what's called tidally locked. And so you'll get to see it go through the crescent to the full Earth, and it's a really wonderful thing to see. Unless you hate the Earth, in which case I would recommend going to the far side of the moon, where you can't see it at all. And the advantage of this is that there's absolutely no cell reception, so the bulk of the moon's rock will prevent you from receiving any signals whatsoever from the Earth.
Woo! Go moon! So maybe you want to go a little bit farther, you want a little more exotic locale, and you like the heat. If that's the case, we would recommend the surface of Venus. You just have to take appropriate precautions, maybe rent some sort of submersible vehicle that can stand 800 degree temperatures and 90 times the atmospheric pressure of Earth, which is what you'll find at the surface. When you go, we really encourage you to keep Venus clean and recycle because, and the atmosphere is all CO2, so you don't have to worry about contributing to that at least. You might want to visit some of the historic sites of Venus. There's a lot of history here. This is one of the first photographs taken from Venus, one of the first space vacation photographs taken by the Russian space program Venera probes. I love to just imagine this probe taking this picture and sending it off right before it just died, because they sent, I think this was probe number 8, and they kept sending them and they kept dying before they got that picture. So just imagine being the first person to see a picture from the surface of Venus, and you can really see kind of that motion before it collapsed into death.
So as terrible as the surface is, Venus actually has some of the areas that are most like Earth in the whole solar system, and that's in the upper atmosphere of Venus. So about 35 miles above the surface, you could have a bubble of Earth atmosphere, and it would float in Venus's atmosphere. So it has this very dense carbon dioxide atmosphere. So you could have floating cities up there. And the advantage of this is that the temperatures are about 90 degrees Fahrenheit, so very similar to Earth. The gravity is similar to Earth. The pressure is very similar to Earth. You could imagine going outside, not in a full pressure suit, but in just some protective suit. The only thing is there are sulfuric acid clouds up there, which will eat away at your skin.
After your visit to Venus, you might want to take a little trip to Jupiter, which is a gas planet. The gas giants in the outer solar system, they take a little bit longer to get to, but I mean, come on, Jupiter is basically the king of planets. And you can visit, you can trip out on its swirling gases and dive in to the atmosphere. Just make sure if you reserve a deep dive into Jupiter's atmosphere that you pay after the trip, because a lot of disreputable companies will collect your money and then they don't care what happens to you when you go down. You're going to fall into Jupiter, you're going to fall a little bit faster than you would on Earth, because the gravity is about 1.5 times what it is on Earth. And the pressures and temperatures are going to just gradually rise as you're falling into Jupiter's gases. You'll see ammonia, hydrosulfide clouds. There are water clouds as well. You might see some lightning as you're falling. Eventually, you're going to reach pressures that are 1,000 times Earth's atmospheric pressure. Temperatures will skyrocket. Eventually, your craft will implode. So we highly recommend that you turn back before that happens.
And if you've listened to her advice and you survive that, you're definitely going to want to see the auroras on Jupiter. So Jupiter has northern lights, and they are they're fantastically powerful. So this is in X-rays, but you could actually see them with your eyes. They'd be kind of a pale pinkish purple color, and they'd be ribbony just like Earth's northern lights are. So they're really, really beautiful, and they're so strong because Jupiter's magnetic field is so intense, and it's trapping a lot of electrons and ions coming off of the moons, and that's interacting with the atmosphere. The downside to the magnetic field is that it's also going to create a radiation band, which is ionizing radiation. So this is dangerous radiation. And you're going to definitely want to wear your dosimeter so that you know how many hours you have until you die.
On the positive side, there are tons of moons to explore on Jupiter. It's great for partiers, great for moon hopping, kind of like island hopping here on Earth. Each moon, has a different style, a different, caters to a different type of lifestyle. If you're into volcanoes, you can visit Io, which is, covered in volcanoes. It's a flaming hellscape, essentially. And if you're lucky, you might see a volcano erupting. This is an animation, from imagery of a volcano called Svashtar, which is one of my favorite volcano names to say. And that's a really fabulous place to visit.
But if volcanoes are a little too dangerous for you, you might want to visit one of the ice worlds. So Callisto, Ganymede, and my personal favorite, Europa. And what's fantastic about these is that they have subsurface oceans, which have more water than in the oceans of Earth. And so you could drill down through about 20 kilometers of ice on Europa, and you'd reach this subsurface ocean. You could take a submarine down there, and the advantage of that is it provides a natural shield to the radiation in Jupiter's vicinity.
And you might even discover life.
It's true.
Which would be pretty awesome. If you want to go a little bit farther, if you really want to get away, like maybe you want to take a one-way trip, you're done with Earth, you want solitude, but also romance, you might try Pluto.
And the main feature you want to see on Pluto is its gorgeous heart. So this is a big plains area, but the plains are made out of ice, nitrogen ice. So basically this is what makes up the main part of the air in this room, but it's so cold on Pluto it's frozen solid. And so it makes this heart shape. And if you took something that was Earth's room temperature and you put it on this flat region of ice, it would instantly turn that ice to gas. So you could imagine floating over it in an Earth's room temperature craft, and you just float over a layer of gas, just kind of like an air hockey puck when you're playing air hockey. So that's called the Leidenfrost effect, and I think it'd be a really fun way to travel on Pluto. And at the edges here, these are mountain ranges. So they're not quite as tall as the mountain ranges we have here on Earth, but they're made out of water ice, which is rock hard, nitrogen ice, and they have methane snow caps. And they're pink in color because of the organic molecules that are on top of them. And so you could imagine going low-gravity hiking in the mountains or low-gravity skiing. It's about 10% of Earth's gravity. It'd be a little bit hard to get up speed when you're skiing because of the low gravity and the acceleration, but if you could, then you could really catch some air, although there's no air on Pluto, so I guess you couldn't do that.
And just be sure not to drink the pink snow.
Yeah, don't drink it.
Okay, so we told you some of the options, and we're actually quite excited to offer some very reasonable packages for you tonight. These are exclusive to the Nerd Night Littlefield crowd. We're ready. We're ready to take your money.
But if you're not willing to commit tonight, we do have another option for you. We have a virtual reality app. It's called Space Vacation, so it's for iOS and Android. It works with Google Cardboard, and you can take a virtual trip to some of the places that we've talked about today.
And this free app is available to demo. We'll have it in the back for you to try out later, so you can take a little space trip this very night.
And if you're hungry to hear about more vacation destinations, we wrote a book, Vacation Guide to the Solar System. So we can tell you all about all the different planets, many moons. There's so many options for you. There's something for everybody.
And lest you think that we're joking, we are not. We are dead serious about space vacations and making them a reality. And to prove it to you, we like to show this image of the Intergalactic Travel Bureau of yesteryear. So this image is from a book called Our Wonder World that was published in 1918, 100 years ago today. And what's amazing about this is airplanes 100 years ago were cutting-edge technology, and the fastest people could imagine going was 120 miles per hour. That was just mind-blowing. To actually be airborne, to fly in this flying machine in the sky was just insane. And so what they did was imagine, what it would take to get to, for example, Neptune using this cutting-edge technology. And the answer is it would take 2,571 years to get to Neptune using the state-of-the-art technology. So these days, we can travel at 20,000 miles per hour in a rocket, and it takes about 10 years to get to Neptune. So
If you don't stop.
If you don't stop, there's a lot of, complexities with calculating orbits. That's one thing to keep in mind when you're planning your space vacation. It's a moving target. Your destination is a moving target, so you might have to brush up on your orbital mechanics to calculate your trajectory. But 100 years from now, like Neptune might be 6 months away. Who knows? The nearest star might be a few years. So to the stars, millions and millions of years. That's how long they thought it would take to get to the nearest star 100 years ago. Of course, we haven't visited a nearby star yet, and with current technology, it would take tens of thousands of years only to get there. But, in 100 years, that number will hopefully be reduced. Stay tuned. So thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Go to nerdnite.com to find a Nerd Night event near you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for our latest presentation.